Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so Skip, Shannon, let's get to it. Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. I'm Jenny Taft with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. You guys had a great weekend. You both looking good. How are we doing?
I'm doing great, Jenny. Had a great weekend. Skip, how about you? You had a good weekend?
I had a good weekend, but I'm not sure this qualifies as a good morning. But good morning to you.
Good morning to you, bro.
All right, guys, let's get to the latest news surrounding the NBA. And Skip, you set it up perfectly. We do have a lot to get to today on the show. And the latest is Kyrie Irving is reportedly against the NBA season resuming in Orlando. In a conference call, Kyrie said that, quote, something smells a bit fishy and that he didn't think continuing the season in the current social climate was a good idea. Rockets guard Austin Rivers disagreed, posting on social media, I love Kyrie's passion towards helping this movement. I'm with it, but in the right way and not at the cost of the whole NBA and players' careers. We can do both. We can play, and we can help change the way Black lives are lived. Shannon, which side of this issue are you on? Should they play or not play?
Well, Skip, the way I look at it, you know, one of my favorite sayings is two things can be true.
Yep.
Kyrie's entitled to feel the way he feels. Now, it would be very interesting to see, Skip, if Kyrie was healthy. Kevin Durant, although he's not in part of this equation, if he was healthy, they're the one of the two seeds.
Yep.
Will Kyrie still feel the exact same way?
Great question.
Being the seventh seed, being injured, okay, I get it. But for me, Skip, I want Kyrie to hopefully understand, and I think people are in his ear, and I think he does understand this. You're talking about problems that have an accumulation of building up over 400 years. And although changes is going to come, I believe, what drastic change would Kyrie Irving like to see immediately that would say, okay, we feel good about resuming the season? I do agree with Austin Rivers. I believe they can play the game of basketball and still fight social injustice, what we're seeing now. Skip, and I'm very optimistic because I haven't seen in the movie, and you was around. I wasn't born in the 60s, but you remember. I don't think we've seen anything like this. Not from accumulation of leagues. Yeah, we had the summit in '67 in Cleveland where guys stood up for Muhammad Ali, the Jim Browns, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who went by his government name back then. And you had a lot of other guys, Bobby Mitchell, Willie Davis, and some guys, Skip, you know. But we've never seen anything like this.
Nope.
Where we've had it, basically, the league have had to come out and says, we were wrong in the beginning for not listening to you and allowing you to exert your First Amendment constitutional right. We got the NBA, who's been one of the forward-thinking leagues and says, okay, players, this is the way you feel. Okay, what can we do to assist you? But to put the entire league on hiatus, because I believe, Skip, no matter how long you wait, there are going to be issues that are going to need to be dealt with.
Yep.
They say sports are a microcosm of society. If that's the case, isn't society quite divided right now, Skip? So one would assume that if sports are a microcosm of that, sports league would be divided on how and when we shall return.
Yep.
Now, we thought, Skip, March, it went on hiatus, I think, in the middle of March 13th, 14th, something like that. And they were going to come back July 30th. And we're like, okay. But then something happened on the way to work, Skip. The George Floyd incident happened Memorial Day. And that threw a monkey wrench in a lot of different things. But, Skip, I love, and I agree with Austin Rivers, I love Kyrie's passion. And he seems to, whatever you think about him, he's quirky and, you know, he rubbed people the wrong way. He's not the best teammate. But he put a lot of thought in this. I do believe Kyrie thought long and hard about this. But I don't necessarily believe the league should go on hiatus because I believe LeBron James has been fighting. There are some guys that's in the league that's been fighting for injustices and still playing at a very high level.
Yep.
So I believe they can do that, Skip. I believe that guys can, once they get on the court, go play, and then once they get off the court, deal with issues that need to be dealt with. And I get Kyrie's concerned, like, once we start playing, people are going to forget all about the movement. They're not going to be covering it. No one's going to be talking about it. They're going to talk NBA, and it's going to be just like some of the other movements, although this one has lasted longer. It's going to be swept up under the rug. But I don't believe the players, I don't believe America will allow that to happen. I do believe two things can be true. I believe these guys can play. I believe these guys can play and still fight for social injustice. But Kyrie's entitled, and other guys are entitled to feel the way they feel. But the question is the same thing. I had a conversation with someone here. I don't want it to be a situation, Skip, where when we watch football, we look at the guys that stand and then the guys that didn't stand. The guys that are standing, we're like, do they not care about this? Just like I don't want people now to say, well, they don't really care about basketball because it's going to put teammates at some point in time, Skip.
You will.
Like, it's going to pit teammates against teammates.
Yep.
And what are we going to do, bro? I understand fighting for social injustice, but we play basketball, and I believe two things can be true. So the commissioner got something on his hands right now that I don't believe he envisioned.
Nope.
Skip, when they called the board of the governors and everybody sat down and they ratified this thing, I don't think they thought this thing was going to get like this.
So, Mr. Sharp, I want to be with you on this. I want to lean toward they should play and they should protest and use the platform they have not had all along, where they've been out of circulation here for a while, to benefit all the issues at hand. Their voices could be heard more loudly and more often on the platform of playing.
Correct.
So that's why I wanted to go. But I will be the first to admit to you, maybe I should be disqualified from this. I'll be the first to admit I have very mixed emotions. I think actually you and I both have mixed emotions on this because in the end, our very livelihood, maybe even our very jobs, depend on the NBA playing and in turn the NFL playing.
Correct.
And when I first heard that Kyrie was balking on Friday night, my first reaction was what you just said. Oh, come on, Kyrie. You weren't going to play anyway. You're coming off surgery. Your man, Kevin Durant, is coming off surgery, so it's easy for you to say right now. I saw last night that Kendrick Perkins tweeted that Kyrie was causing unnecessary drama. And on Friday night, that's what I thought at first glance. And then, Mr. Sharp, the weekend happened. In real life happened. And the light I was seeing at the end of the tunnel through all that we've been talking about went dark again for several reasons. Ironically, the least of which was COVID.
Right.
We've had new outbreaks now in 18 states, so we're having a resurgence here.
Which is not surprising.
Well, we've had mayors and governors now step up and say, I was wrong, we reopened too early. Well, obviously, this is going to give all those NBA players a little new cause to pause and rethink this and second guess and say, gee, are we really ready in about a month to go to Orlando to our quote-unquote bubble? Is it going to be that safe? Well, we're kind of taking it day to day, so we don't know. Now to the far more devastating news. And this is difficult for me to talk about, so bear with me.
Go ahead.
I started reading on Friday that not one, but two black men were found hanging from trees in communities not far from where we're sitting right now.
Correct.
Palmdale is about 60 miles north of Los Angeles, California, a blue state. And a black man was found hanging from a tree named Robert Fuller. And then in Victorville, which is about 60 miles to the east of Palmdale, not that far from L.A., another black man named Malcolm Harsh was found hanging from a tree. Local authorities ruled both suicides right out of the box, but the two families, obviously devastated, are naturally and obviously extremely suspicious, as am I, of what is going on in these two communities with this. Were they suicides, in fact? I mean, it's possible these men were despondent about COVID or about Black Lives Matter and what's not happening with Black Lives Matter, and maybe they did hang themselves. Now my mind wanders and my imagination runs wild, and I don't know if it's hate groups trying to start a hate war. But this, Shannon, is a flashback to me to the 1950s in Mississippi. Is that where we're heading again? Seriously. And then, as you well know, in the city in which you still own a home, on Friday night, it happened again.
It did.
Another black man got gunned down and killed by a white cop.
Right.
In a completely avoidable situation to me.
Right.
I watched the video. I read carefully about what happened. This man, Rayshon Brooks, fell asleep at the wheel of his car in the drive-thru of a Wendy's. So one white cop is called, and he treats him very well, and they go through everything, go through a little field sobriety, and he's found that he failed. Another white cop shows up, and as they try to handcuff him, a scuffle ensues, and Mr. Brooks manages to secure the taser from the second white cop,
right,
and takes off running with it, and turns and shoots, if we could see the video just at least one time, shoots the taser, the stun gun at the officer and misses, and the officer shooting his stun gun at Rayshon Brooks and misses.
Right.
And then, as we know now, the officer reaches for his handgun, pulls it, shoots 3 times, hits Rayshon Brooks twice in the back.
Right.
Completely out of bounds, completely uncalled for. I'm getting chills again talking about it. How could this happen now after all we've been through in that city, which has such a strong, vibrant black culture and such a strong black mayor?
It's the birthplace of civil rights.
It's the birthplace of civil rights. And it happened on Friday night. What?
Yeah.
And the officer can be heard on the tape saying, I got him. You got him? And again, the police chief has already resigned, but wouldn't your department heads all be lecturing all the cops, black and white? At this time, we have to be ultra careful and cautious.
Yes.
We have to go to the nth degree to try not to use lethal force. That didn't require lethal force.
Especially, Skip, because the situation, look, you got the guy's information. You know who he is.
You got him.
You got his car. He had impound his car. He's going to have to come get it.
Let him run.
He's going to come get it.
Wait, did he kill somebody?
No, right.
Was he armed? No. Did he rob a bank? No.
Right.
He fell asleep behind the wheel of his car and he was driving intoxicated.
Right.
We know that.
Yes.
Okay, so we want to keep him off the streets, but you got his car.
Right.
Okay? So he's running. Just let it go. Call him in and you'll apprehend him.
We just saw this, 4 years ago, Skip, with Walter Scott.
Okay.
Remember in South Carolina?
It's the same thing. It just happened all over again. I got it. And obviously the Wendy's got burned, and I'm sorry for the people who own the Wendy's because it wasn't their fault.
Right.
But I get it.
Right.
And more buildings might burn. And now we're just pouring gasoline on a fire that was already raging.
Correct.
And now I'm reading this morning, and I don't know any more details. There's a 19-year-old woman in Tallahassee who was a very active and vocal protester, and she posted that she had been raped, and then she disappeared, and she's found dead. And I don't know why. There's no cause of death yet.
Right.
But are we seeing it again? Are we seeing it again and again and again and again? So my point is, all of a sudden, Kyrie's words take on a whole different meaning.
Right.
Dwight Howard's post, which was powerful. He's also, it came across as anti-play, even though his agent stepped up and sort of walked it back a little bit. That's not what he was saying. Yes, it was. Yeah. He was flat out saying that right now basketball or entertainment period isn't needed at this moment and will only be a distraction. Well, I get that.
Right.
And Kyrie can now make an even stronger point that the thing that they do the greatest, that we all miss dearly, if you withhold it, it does make a powerful statement to me at this point in time. And I'm not, again, I don't want to see them not play.
Right.
Well, I need them to,
we need them.
Yes. And I get
Selfishly.
But now, my conscience is saying, you don't need it that badly. You don't need it as badly as the black community needs this right now.
Right.
Some big statement made.
Right, Skip. I wouldn't be surprised if the league puts a patch, BLM, on everybody's jersey that's in the bubble.
All right.
Skip, I believe things, and I get it, Skip, and I heard the video you heard too, and one of the officers comes up and says, we're going to take care of this, and you hear him says, okay, I got him. Skip, I don't know if you've ever been hunting, but that's what guys say when you kill it. Oh, I got one. What'd you get? That's not an animal. Bro, you just took a human life and talk about you got him?
And I've got to believe he was embarrassed that his stun gun, his taser, got taken by the suspect, right?
And I think that's the thing, though, Skip, is that you have all of his information. You have his driver's license. You know who he is. You have his car. Skip, if he took your gun and you have a firearm and you want to pursue him, okay, I get that. But the stun gun, he's running away. You've diffused the threat. There is no longer deadly confrontation. He's running away. So, and you shoot him in the back. And they say 60% of the unarmed victim that's killed by the police in Atlanta, 60% are shot in the back.
Okay.
It wasn't a good look. And the mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, and she's trying to like, look, we're trying to root this out. But Skip, that's so ingrained in what they do, Skip. It's like when you put that uniform on, I was talking to my barber, and I says, let me ask you a question. You got clippers, you got scissors in your hand. What are you going to do with that? You're not going to go make an omelet. You're going to cut hair. You do what you do. When you put that uniform on, Skip, you take on that person, that persona. I got a gun, I got a taser, I got a bulletproof vest. You take on that, Skip, and it's so ingrained. You saw the way they were doing the peaceful protesters, beating them, spraying mace in their face when they're doing nothing. Skip, that's ingrained because they've been able to do that for hundreds of years with impunity. This qualified immunity is a wonderful thing for a police officer, Skip. Basically, it says you can violate someone's civil right, and I can't be sued.
Yep. Okay, so what Kyrie basically did on Friday night was take on LeBron James. Mm-hmm. And they have been sort of friendly rivals in the past.
Right.
And I'm sure Kyrie, there's a part of him that wants to stand up even taller than LeBron is standing.
Right.
LeBron has said, I'm all in.
Right.
Let's play.
Right.
The owners voted, 29 to 1 to play.
Right.
The player representatives voted 28-0 to play. So it's a done deal, we think.
Right.
But Shannon, I must suggest to you, the pressure is going to mount on LeBron James over the next 24 to 48 hours. He has what seems like billions of followers on social media, and he is aware, he does read what they say to him and about him. Mm-hmm. Well, you know and I know there's going to be now a new backlash of LeBron. You can't play now.
Right.
You don't think he's going to second guess it? You don't think it's possible he would crumble under the new pressure to say, we just can't do this right now? It's possible to me. I hope not for our sake.
Possible, but I believe it's highly unlikely, Skip. Right now, look, the NBA is a star-driven league. The NFL is a team-driven league. Skip, it doesn't matter. As long as you got that star on by your helmet, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It doesn't matter who the running back. But it's not like that in the NBA because it is a star-driven league. Now, from what we know is that the superstars really want to play. The Giannis's, the Kawhis, the James Harden, the Steph Curry. Well, Steph not going, but I'm saying those guys want to play. Mm-hmm. So as long as LeBron have those guys, but if you start getting a James Harden or Giannis or Kawhi, and all of a sudden it's like, nah, Dame Lillard, no, I'm good. Okay. Well, where do you go?
Okay, but Shannon, who is the most outspoken and influential activist in professional basketball? It's not even close.
Right.
Times 100, it's LeBron.
Yes.
So it all hinges me. I kept waiting over the weekend. I'm sort of looking. I don't follow LeBron, but I'm Googling. I'm just trying to make sure he doesn't come down, drop the hammer and say, okay.
He's probably behind the scenes calling guys.
He might be.
Are we in or out? This is what we need to know. Because if I'm going to put my name on it and says, okay, this is what we need to do, not only for the game's sake, but for the movement's sake. Because but Skip, you got to realize now, even though those people in the Sixers were protesting, they had jobs. They went to work.
Yeah.
Even though some of those lasted like a year. I think the bus boycott down in Alabama was like a year. The sitting in North Carolina was like 300 days. Okay. So, Skip, but people went to work.
Okay. So I appreciate on Saturday morning, Austin Rivers stepped up and defied what Kyrie said.
Right.
Austin is not a star.
Right.
His father is Doc Rivers.
Correct.
We get that, but that doesn't qualify Austin as a superstar.
No, it does not.
And yet, I liked what he said. He made it first about money, and he said 99% of the players in this league do not make the money that Kyrie makes.
Right.
Okay, so that's a strong point because there is money to be made that's going to be left on the table here.
Right.
So a whole bunch of players are going to say, man, I don't know if I can do without.
Right.
So what are they reduced to about 75% of their salary? But that for many of them, that's crucial money.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, and Austin made the point we can do both that you just made. In fact, you can also argue the other side, the LeBron side. you can do even more if you get your platform back,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
And Austin said if you want to donate some of your money that you do make from this to Black Lives Matter causes, feel free to do that.
Right.
That could be more of a help. But in the end, I can no longer criticize or, God help me, condemn Kyrie.
Right.
He's basically saying it's not about shut up and dribble. It's about speak out and don't dribble, right? That's an even stronger message to send. We're going to speak out, but we're not going to dribble anymore. Right?
Yeah.
We're not going to entertain you anymore. We're going to withhold that.
Yeah, I think the thing, Skip, when they started putting this together, I think COVID was the biggest thing. Okay, how do we convince these guys that they're going to be isolated for an extra period of time?
It was all about COVID.
Right. And then, okay, we'll slowly start to let family members start to come in, but there's no in, there's no out. Once you get in, you're in. Ain't no going outside of the bubble, coming back in. It's not like, Skip, it's like my grandma used to tell me and my brother, boy, stay in or stay out. You either stay in the house or you stay out the house. Those are your two choices. There ain't no back and forth.
Yeah.
So basically that's what this was about, this bubble. You get in, you're not getting out until this thing is over. Obviously you lose, Skip, you go home. But the teams that keep advancing, Skip, they were not going to be allowed to leave. And then that tragic event happened on Memorial Day, Skip, that changed everything.
It did.
That changed everything.
Yep.
And people got upset. And people are still in the streets to this day. We thought it was going to last a couple of days. I remember a week after, I was like, Skip, I think it's going to die down, but people are up in arms. They're still going strong.
Well, I think they're going to be going stronger.
Yes.
Now.
Yes.
Because I thought, silly me, this would start to eliminate some of that racist mindset, but didn't on Friday night.
No, because I think the thing is, Skip, is that they thought that, and then you pick up Google and you look on the internet and you still have people saying certain things. And they say, see, this is what's going to happen. If we start back to dribbling, our focus will be taken off this.
Yep.
People won't be held accountable for their actions because they'll be talking about basketball and the championship. And so we'll lose a lot of the momentum that we've gained over the last 3 weeks by doing what we're doing. And we don't want to lose any steam. But all I'm saying is, guys, is that this is 400 years in the making. And although change, I believe, is inevitable, Skip, it's going to take time. You're not going to undo a system that's been in place for 400 years. It's going to take gradual. So my thing is, and for anybody, the guys that says, okay, we shouldn't play, we should just do this, what changes would you like to see immediately enforced that would put your mind at ease that says, okay, I see you guys heading in the right direction, we'll go play. But don't think for 1 second we're not keeping our eye on you. I just want to know what would be the immediate change they would like to see.
Okay, so bottom line to this for LeBron James, he now has two teammates that I know of strongly against playing.
Right.
I think Dwight is still strongly against it, even though his agent walked it back.
Right.
But Avery Bradley, I read last night, and I was not aware, has been a quiet force behind the scenes. He has no social media account.
Right.
But I read that it was he who came up with that sentence that LeBron tweeted. I thought it was from LeBron originally, but that was just something that he asked every Laker teammate, Avery Bradley did, to tweet, which is, if you ain't with us, we aren't with you.
Right.
Right? You know what that means.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay. So I thought it was original from LeBron because he's highly capable of coming up with that kind of a sort of a slogan for the black community. Yeah. But it was from Avery Bradley. So I think LeBron has some damage control to do even within his own team. Right. I don't know. He's going to have a lot of pressure on him for the next.
We're still 6 weeks away, Skip. This thing is you're closer to what transpired to lead you here than you are getting to the season starting again. So I believe there's some time to say, okay, guys, what do we got to do? Because we got to be all in. Because at the end of the day, Skip, if we come back and play, the ultimate goal is winning the championship. And I think the greatest thing, in the grand scheme of things, that's unimportant. But if you're playing the game, that's of the utmost important. So I think LeBron is going to have to get these guys together. Okay, what are we? Are we all in, or we can't be half in and half out? You thinking about this over there and you thinking about that over there. We need to come together as one. And what is it, guys? What is it? And Skip, it might be a situation you have to go on. You might have to leave people behind, Skip.
You might.
Dwight, they might have to go out and try to find it, and maybe Boogie Cousins is healthy enough to come play. And maybe they have to find someone else that's able to come play. And Avery and Dwight get left behind.
Maybe. I hate for it to come to that, but it could be.
No mercy.
Following Roger Goodell saying that he and the NFL support peaceful social protests by its players, President Trump was critical of allowing kneeling during the anthem, tweeting that he would not be watching the NFL this season if that was the case. So, Shannon, how do you believe the owners will react to this?
Well, I think the thing is that because now everybody knows that what Colin Kaepernick took a knee for, Skip, it was not about in protest of the flag, the military or the vets. It was about to bring attention to the unarmed killing of unarmed black men and women in America, to bring attention to the social and economic injustices that we see in America. That's what it's about. The one thing, Skip, whether you like President Trump or not, the thing that you can say about all great leaders is that they can convince people that what they're saying is right and get people to follow them. Even the greatest generals, 5-star, they've only been, if I'm mistaken, there's only been 5 of those, and those that happened during wartime, from MacArthur to Eisenhower to Omar Bradley, Henry Arnold, to Jim Jones. Because Jim Jones convinced 1,000 people, Skip, that he was the Messiah, and to follow him to Guyana and drink poison. That's what good leaders can do. President Trump convinced. Now, they were along for the ride anyway, Skip. They were just hoping we need somebody even more powerful than us because we don't want to touch this. We don't want to talk about this, Skip. So if we can get someone, and what did he start? Oh, they're kneeling in protest. Oh, they're doing this and that. But, Skip, it was never about that. And I wrote something, and I got this, Skip. Everybody loves Dr. King, but this is what he said, Skip. He said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Skip, when this was hard, when this was difficult, 2017, 18, 19, where were the owners?
Yep.
Nowhere to be heard. Now it's convenient. I expect them to do nothing else than go along with what the public sentiment is. They're going to turn a blind eye. They're going to turn a deaf ear to President Trump. But by the same token, they will pump millions into his re-election bid. We know Jerry Jones did, Daniel Snyder, Woody Johnson. Skip, even Shad Khan last week, Skip, he said, although I'm not from this country, I don't know what it's like, but I understand what it's like to be racism. As he pumps millions into his inauguration, as he gives millions more for re-election. Skip, I'm not saying the people that support Donald Trump are racist. But what I am saying is that racism is not a deal breaker for them. Although that is something crucial, $600 million in my bank account means more to me than that. That's what they've said. That's it in a nutshell. So I do believe, Skip, that the owners, that's why you heard none of them speak. They're the one with ticky-tack statements. Because what's going to happen, Skip, is that what can I do? What is the least amount that I can do to get the most bang for my words? Oh, it's sad, and our players are absolutely right. We stand behind our players. Hey, President Trump, here's another $2 million for your re-election. President Trump, here's another $3 million for your re-election. Yep. That's what that is, Skip. The player, and now, so it doesn't matter what they say, because what they've seen, and Skip, and for me, if they had a history, and since Shannon, you gave Drew Brees had a history of being great for the black community. That's why people got so upset when he said what he said.
Got it.
Ain't nobody upset at these owners. Because that's what they expect. They think one way, economics. What does this do for me? Them killing black people, that don't affect my bank account. But putting him in office and then having him do tax cut that where I'm at, that saves me hundreds of millions of dollars, that's what does this for me. So, Skip, this is what I expect. I expect eventually, if we were to have football and these owners are going to have to talk. Reporters are going to ask them, and they're going to say, we commend our players, we support our players, and we want what's best for our players as long as it's peaceful protest. Every time I hear that, Skip, it just burns me. As long as they peacefully protest. Skip, what the hell were they doing? They've always been peaceful. So it's going to be, Skip, it's going to be, oh, yeah, the players are unbelievable. We have a great community. That's what we love about our players. Not only are they great athletes, but they're great community men. They do right by their community, all the while seething, all the while hating that the players are kneeling because now they can't make it about the flag anymore, Skip. They can't make it about the anthem. They can't make it about the military. That's what they done. They shaped it because the narrative, Skip, I don't want to talk about that. If I talk about that, Skip, they was like, okay, then what are you going to do about it? But if I keep the attention on the flag and the vets and the military, now I don't even have to talk about that. Well, I can't even see. I can't even hear what you're talking about because you're doing that. So, no, I expect them to go along with the public because the public says it's okay. They'll side with the public. But when it was difficult, when it was controversial, when they really could have had some teeth, when they really could have made a stand, Skip, they said nothing, they did nothing, and it cost the man his career because he took that stance.
Yep. Agreed. So, Shannon Sharpe, allow me first to comment on Greg Popovich. As you know, I'm a longtime Spurs fan.
Yep.
And now, Greg Popovich, after many times taking shots at President Trump, Greg Popovich has now condemned Roger Goodell and NFL owners for caving in to President Trump back in 2017. It is difficult for me, even as a Spurs fan, to completely buy into anything Greg Popovich says publicly because, to me, he bullies and shames the media even worse than President Trump does on a nightly, daily basis. He does. He uses the media platforms when it benefits him and the message he wants to get out. But then if reporters dare to question him after games, he all but spits on them. And you've seen him in action. So I lose respect for him in that regard. And I will also remind everybody he did pledge allegiance to Tim Duncan 10 years ago and said again and again and again, when Tim walks out that door into the sunset, I'll be walking with him. Tim retired in 2016. Even before 2017, he retired. And guess who's still coaching the Spurs? And guess who benefits from blasting President Trump? A man who's preaching to a choir in the locker room that includes, what is the NBA now, 75, 80%
easy
African-American, somewhere in there. So obviously his constituency wants to hear this, and prospective free agents want to hear, oh, Pop's got our back on this. So again, I'm not saying he doesn't believe in what he's saying, but it does benefit his livelihood greatly because these are the black stars who make him a genius.
But here's the thing. The difference is with Pop is that Pop started this crusade in 2017 when it was very unpopular.
He did. No, I give you that.
He went out there, he and Steve Kerr, Skip,
they did.
Were white coaches in professional sports that went out before anybody else thought it was in vogue. Now, we know the black coaches, how they felt, but these two guys went out there and took major criticism.
Got it. So, yes, in 2017, I would say a majority of NFL owners were scared of Donald Trump, our new president of the United States, because he is the most powerful man in the world. Robert Kraft has said many times publicly he has been a best friend of Donald Trump for many years, going way back. Jerry Jones is at least a friend of Donald Trump's. And I believe that as a group, they were scared to death that this new president might just go ballistic and attempt to take away their antitrust exemption. I don't want to get too detailed and complicated here, but that's what allows these owners to make millions and millions and ultimately billions of dollars is their antitrust exemption. And there would be a threat that the new guy is just crazy enough, just powerful enough that he'd say, I'm going to flex my new muscles here and just I'll take that away from you guys. So it's always about the bottom line in any sport. But all of a sudden, I think the tide has changed. I think we're seeing a new day and a new way. And as I told you from the start when I started watching the protests, the eyes, ears, and minds of the white community, much of the white community, are now open. They are protesting alongside what they view as their black brothers and sisters. These are mostly the younger white people, but they're out there in droves. And it has made these protests seem even more awesome because of the sheer numbers out there, and they're still out there. So this could be, as I keep saying, the greatest time in the history of race relations in this country if the moment gets seized. Again, am I a little frightened about what else is going on? I just detailed all that in the previous conversation that we just had. But right now, it feels like the tide has turned. We've hit a tipping and a turning point. in which every CEO in America, seeing their bottom line, we're going to issue statements about Black lives do matter. Okay, well, you don't think that the NFL owners are saying, wow, this is great, because now maybe President Trump's on the wrong side of this issue for the first time, right? Maybe we could be on the right side, which might have played a little part in the fact that once the players put out that video on a Thursday, it wasn't 24 hours until Roger Goodell, and I don't think he would have had time to call every NFL owner, maybe a couple, but it almost felt like he went rogue and made his own video from his basement and said, you know what? They were right in 2017, and we were wrong. And he basically just repeated everything the players said verbatim. Like, yes, that's correct, that's correct, that's correct.
Yeah, the NFL was built on the backs of black players.
Okay. It was.
Yes.
Okay. So now we've seen such a shift, such a potential watershed moment that predictably, right after or soon after Roger Goodell's message, President Trump doubled down. You could have predicted it. And he basically said, if you kneel, I'm not watching. Well, how many people will that appeal to now? Those are the people he's trying to re-appeal to, the people who elected him. Is there, and again, I'm out of my league here. I've told you all the time, I'm not that political, so I don't follow it the way you do. Is it possible there's still a sort of a suddenly silent majority out there because of all the protests, that they've sort of shrank back into the shadows, and that they're going to come out on election day and reelect this man? I don't know. It's possible that they're still out there.
Well, everything that he does is about energizing his base. That's all it's about. He doesn't try to appeal to anyone outside of that, Skip. He tries to appeal to his base. They're very energized. See, for me, Skip, look, I have friends I've been friends with 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. But there are things they can do that would cause us to terminate our friendship.
I'd say.
The question I have for the NFL owner, what could this man do that would cause you to say enough is enough? Because it seems to me that he's taking shots. He's talked about Gold Star family members. He's dealt heavily in racism. What is it? What would it take? Except, Skip, the bottom line, as you mentioned, the bottom line for them is money.
Yes.
And all that other stuff does not impact me. He could possibly impact me in my financial bottom line. So I'm going to ride this out. And I'm going to let whatever you want to say, well, they hire so many black guys. You do realize those black guys do things for them. They're not just hiring them and paying them $10, $15, $20 million for nothing. They provide a service. So for me, the owners is really falling on deaf ears, Skip, because they had an opportunity when it was inconvenient. Skip, it's easy now. Everybody, you see, they watch television. I don't care what network they choose. They can keep it on one. They can flip. But if you watch TV, they seen these protests.
And it is now open season on racist symbols, racist lyrics, all vestiges of the slavery issue, the period in this country. They're taking them down. They're saying no more. And this should have happened years and years ago, but it's happening now. So even the popularity polls, and I don't follow them like you do, but isn't our president's popularity at its lowest
It's at the lowest. It was like what President Carter was and what the first Bush was when they lost re-election. So that's where it is right now. And we know they had a lot of going on, Skip. You had the Iran situation where they had taken over the embassy. And then you had Bush and President Bush and Desert Storm when they invaded. So there are a lot of things that were negative that weighed heavily into them not being reelected. You got this race situation going on, and he's done nothing to try to mend. All he's tried to do is drive a bigger divide between Skip and energize his base, because his base they're on that, like you said, that bubble in Orlando. His base is in that bubble with him. They're not going anywhere. There's nothing he can do that would turn them off or turn them away from him. They're there.
Is that bubble shrinking because they've been enlightened as to what Colin Kaepernick's message was in the first place?
No, not his bubble. You know why, Skip? Look, a guy, I was listening to the guy last night, Skip. He said race is about two things. Race is about class, so it's about wealth. If I have it, what can I do to keep it? If it's a power, if I have it, what can I do to maintain it? It's also about white and black. Because, see, Skip, the thing is that if I'm white, see, and that's what LBJ said, You can convince the lowest white because at the end of the day, I don't care how much money you make. Let LeBron James go out there. He can do whatever. He's making $80, $100 million. His team lose. Somebody jump on there and say, you're in. You see, Skip? You see how they do that? I can still keep you in your place because you still black. You still one of them. So now we got 3 levels. We got wealth, we got power, we got whiteness. And so as long as I maintain as long as I get to stay in one of them and I can keep you over there, we good. Because, Skip, I've always, white America has always, since they founded in 1619, they've always had someone to look down on. So, Skip, if you take that away, who can I look down on, Skip? Who's less than me now? So I want to stay there. I got the wealth. I don't want to give up part of that. I'm in power. That's why people say, well, why won't the Republicans, they know he's wrong? Skip, I got power. I don't want to give that up. I want to maintain it. So if that means going along for him and being a part of history that's not going to be looked at favorably, so be it. But I'm in power.
Well, forgive me for saying this, but I don't want to look down on anybody. I want to look eye to eye with everybody.
I know you do, Skip, but you have to understand. But when you break, Skip, it's like all this will ever be is paper. Because that's been established what it is. When you bring a man in as a slave and you say that's what you look at him as, that's the color of his skin. Skip, now they didn't bring whites in. They didn't bring Hispanics in. They brought black-skinned people from Africa in. So that's how they're perceived. You can't take that off. No amount of money can take that away. So in other words, Skip, you can be worth $5 billion. You still in some of those eyes are what? Worth $5 billion.
So bottom line, which is the bottom line, which is about money, I'm just hoping the NFL is now going to be on the right side of this issue.
Yes. We're going to have reading storybooks now, Skip. In history now, you have, 1619, you go to 1620, you go to 1776 and 1863. Now, there's going to be a period they're not going to be looked upon favorably. So from 2017 to 2019, they're not going to be looked upon favorably. Now, moving forward, 2020, and moving forward, how do you want to be perceived?
Well, it's like you always say about Dr. King or Muhammad Ali. While they were alive, everybody looked down on them.
Looked down.
And all of a sudden, history made them great because it made them right.
Yes.
No mercy.
Dabo Swinney participated in an on-campus march and rally for social justice. Dabo walked with Clemson players and then said a few words in front of the crowd. He said, quote, "It has to be everybody's responsibility to be more aware, to learn more, and to speak out against racial inequality." So, Shannon, what was your reaction to the protest and hearing what Dabo said?
Protest, I love the protest. The students, the athletes that organized this, it was well done. I commend them for that, Skip. Obviously, it was a lot on their mind, given the situation with the John C. Calhoun building being renamed. And those guys, and so in hearing Mike Jones, I'll talk about him a little later, one of the linebackers, Skip. And so I commend the student athletes. I commend the students that were there and showed up to hear what these young men had to say. Dabo could have stayed home. I already know how he feels. Dabo had an opportunity in 2017, 2018, 2019 to take a stand. Dabo is one of these guys, Skip, okay, what's the least I can do, Skip, to get the most bang for my little participation? Because he still has that fan base. I can't rile them up. I'm in South Carolina. I can't rile them up. So, but I want to show that I do have a little empathy for my players. And Skip, he gets up there and says Black Lives Matter equally. Skip, if I'm a keynote guy, the American Cancer Society asked me to give a keynote. And I'm up there speaking. And I'm like, by the way, heart disease matters equally. Mental health matters equally. What? People look, what? He couldn't even bring himself. Black Lives Matter, leave it alone. That's not in it. That's not in his heart.
I agree.
Because that's not what he believes. Dabo doesn't believe racism exists. He believes that because some blacks are become more prosperous, that's good enough, guys. What are you complaining about? And some guys will only ever see it as Dabo sees it. Right, bro. I mean, I did help you out. I mean, I give you a scholarship, almost like this Donald Sterling said, I gave you a scholarship. You become doctor, you become lawyer, policeman, fight, whatever. Dabo, it's a trade-off. Yeah. But what they're asking now is for men like you, Dabo, power men, influential men that have a voice, has a platform. These men and women probably will never be able to do anything for you, Dabo. They won't win your game. Half of them probably won't even show up to a ball game. But that's what they're asking from you. So for me, as I said before, Skip, this is a moment of convenience. When it was controversial, when it was hard, and he could have made a stand, he told you how it felt. I don't like Neil. I don't like that. And if you don't like it, leave the country. That's what Dabo said. He said it. And when they asked him about it 2 weeks ago, he said it was harsh. Didn't say I was apologized. I was wrong for that. That's not what he did.
Nope.
So I'm good. We already know. Dabo is in his place. He's doing the bare minimum. What's the bare minimum? You got to get maximum amount of work for the bare minimum effort that I'm going to. Oh, did you see Dabo? He marching with his players. Skip, Mike Jones says, I've lived through injustice my whole life. Not only but me, my grandfather, many more to become. But he said something very interesting at the end, Skip. He said, being a black Clemson football player has given me a platform to speak and be heard, but it's not the same for all students. I realize once my career is over, I'll go from being an athlete to being a black man in America. I could have sworn somebody said that on Friday, Skip. One day you're going to take that uniform off. See, when you're in that uniform, Skip, you good, especially in Clemson, South Carolina. You good. And the surrounding, Anderson, South Carolina, I know all about that. All that, you good, Skip, long as you got a uniform on. But what happens when you don't have that uniform on and they don't recognize you? They recognize you as being black. Then what?
When Dabo Swinney posted his first video, whenever it was, a couple of weeks back, the first thing I seized upon, the first thing I brought up to you was Black Lives Matter equally. It's the same as saying all lives matter.
Yes.
That is the phrase that got at least two people I know of in prominent positions fired, two white people, the long time since 1988 play-by-play voice, the legendary play-by-play voice of the Sacramento Kings, Grant Napier, fired because he tweeted back to DeMarcus Cousins, all lives matter. Gone. Boom. Editor, Philadelphia Inquirer, fired because he signed off on a headline that said buildings matter after the riot.
Right.
Well, you can't say that.
No,
you can't try to render any less or less significant. Black Lives Matter. That's the issue at hand right here, right now.
Right.
Dabo has had a lifelong, I believe, blind spot to the real-life plight of the young black men who have made him, or at least helped make him, the most successful coach in America, 69-5 over the last 5 years, and helped make him the highest paid coach in America, almost $10 million a year to Dabo.
Yep.
They are his lifeblood. They are his reason for being, and I believe he has demonstrated this classic, arrogant, white, oblivious insensitivity that so many have. I think that's what afflicted Drew Brees when he made his comment. Do I believe that Dabo and Drew Brees are bad people? I do not.
No.
Do I think they have bad heart? I don't. Dabo is Christian. He wears it on his sleeve. Got it. Take nothing away from that. But he is constantly praising God. All glory be to God. And I did like one thing he said, one silver lining quote within the framework of what he said at the protest the other night was, I believe with all my heart that God stopped the world in 2020 so we could all have perfect vision and see social and racial injustice and the changes that need to occur in our society. So he's saying that the pandemic came to make us all stop and go home. And then George Floyd got murdered to make us all wake up and say, aha, while we're quarantined, while we're a captive audience, he's saying that God said, you will see the light here because you can't help but see the light now because you don't have anything else to distract you from the light.
Right.
So I liked that part. But to your point, do I trust that he saw a little bit of light? Maybe a little bit. I don't know that because I can't speak to a man's heart. I can speak to his actions. And if you wear a T-shirt just 1 week ago that says football matters, you ain't got it, man.
Right.
You're out of it. You're completely out of touch. And you're basically disqualifying yourself because you're just telling us in 2 words what your life is all about. All that matters to you is football matters.
Right.
John C. Calhoun doesn't matter. Protesting John C. Calhoun back in, 2016?
Right.
did not matter to him.
2017.
2017, yes. Again, some of his players wanted to go join in the protest. He said, you're not just some run-of-the-mill student. You better be careful what you're getting involved in because the spotlight's going to go on you. Well, he's saying, don't go risk that. We're a football team. All that matters at Clemson is football matters. Not you protesting. What does that matter?
And John C. Calhoun name been on that building for umpteen years. I mean, what is that?
Come on, what does that matter? And then the N-word incident on the practice field, he just didn't get it. I'm not sure he still gets it. He didn't manage that situation correctly. I think it was left stuck in the craw of a lot of players who now became ex-players. And they didn't love it. And they shouldn't have loved it because it wasn't the right way to handle that situation. No white man can ever say that word under any circumstance. I don't care. You can't qualify or disqualify.
It's not a teaching moment.
No, it's not. It's not a teaching moment. He just didn't get it. So is he getting it now in bits and pieces? Was it convenient for him to march the 2 miles from the stadium to wherever they held the end of the protest? Yeah. Did he feel obligated to do it now? Was he under fire to do it? Yeah, probably.
It was convenient because everybody was like, so, I mean, my base can't give me that hard of a time, but I'm going to say a few things. Skip, Dabo doesn't realize he benefited. Dabo was a walk-on at the University of Alabama and somehow parlayed that into a receiver position coach. Normally guys that become position coaches, especially black, they had to be pretty good. Dabo was a walk-on, just a guy at Alabama. And somehow he became the position coach.
He did.
Normally guys that become position coaches. Dabo don't realize the very thing that we want him to fight, he benefited from.
You're talking about white privilege.
Yes. He benefited.
Agreed.
Became an offensive coordinator. Became the highest paid head coach. He benefited to that. Ain't no black rising up through that.
Not like that.
No.
Not that meteoric a rise. No. Not like that. You're going to have to pay more dues.
They can barely get a job, let alone walk on. You're gonna be a position coach for about 15 years. You're gonna be an OC for about 4 years. So by the time you go a head coach, you about 25 years in the game. He don't even see it. He doesn't see that he benefited from being white. He doesn't even see it, Skip. Because you know why? Because he's been white all his life, and he think he been doing it on merit. That's what he think. He do.
He's also the king of what has become, you could argue, the greatest football kingdom in America. At Clemson.
Oh, yeah, he's the greatest football coach. I mean, before him, it was Danny Ford. And no. It's him. It is not even close.
Not only 69-5, he's been in 4 championship games and won 2 of them.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That'll work. But does that give you a pass?
No.
No.
Hell nah.
Well, in his mind, it probably does.
It give him a pass with his base. Because like he said, football matters. And to him, football matters. And so if I can keep everything focused on football, that out there doesn't really impact me. That's how he looks at it. But I wish him the best.
Well, I do too. And I say God bless him, and I hope his mind has been opened.
No mercy.
Well, some stars are reportedly split on whether the NBA should resume their season. Patrick Beverley tweeted, quote, "Hoopers, say what y'all want. King James says we hoopin'. He hoopin', we all hoopin'. Not personal, only business. Hashtag stay woke." Shannon, did you like what Beverley tweeted?
Nope. Because what he tried to do is paint LeBron James as a villain, Skip. He's like, no matter what, look, there are more important things than basketball. But LeBron James say we hooping, so we hooping. LeBron James is the only voice that matters. Now, we've seen a lot of players, like I think Kyrie had 100 players on his call. Some of them have said, this is bigger than basketball. We should postpone basketball till we get
the Friday night
call. Right,
the
Friday night call.
And by the way, LeBron did not participate.
That's correct.
All right.
So he's like, we should just postpone this until we get some of these things handled. Skip, yes, LeBron carries a lot of weight, but LeBron James is not the only decision that matters in this. So I don't like that. No, you do. You didn't talk about when you re-signed with the Clippers. You ain't mentioned nothing about LeBron. You your own man, Pat Bev. Pat Bev is his own man. Came up the hard way, go through the G League and all these other leagues playing overseas, and made it to the NBA. Now all of a sudden it comes time to return to play. All hoopers. King James say we play and we hooping. Now don't do that. Don't try to paint the man because, Skip, there are some people in society that believe basketball should be postponed. And so now, if LeBron, if I believe it should be postponed, there's some players that believe it should be postponed. There's some fans that believe it should be postponed. But obviously one of the most powerful players in the NBA says we should play. If we play, now LeBron gets painted as a villain. Nah, don't do that, Pat. You're entitled to your opinion. If you don't want to play, say, hey, I don't want to play. Or say, I do want to play. Don't bring King name in your mentions. Kyrie ain't mentioned nothing about that. Nobody else has mentioned anything else about LeBron James wanting to play. He make it seem like LeBron is the only one that wants to play. Giannis has made it clear he wanted to go back and play. So, nah, I don't like that. Don't try to paint the man as the villain. Mm-hmm. And plus, LeBron James has been working with, remember, Skip, with the Donald Sterling thing. He's like, Donald, he got to go. The Trayvon Martin. They put together the Heat with the hoodies. Mm-hmm. So LeBron James has been fighting. Now what we're seeing is more athletes getting on board, especially in the NBA, and saying, you know what, I'm willing to risk a few dollars of endorsement because this is a cause that I believe in. Hey, I'm black. What happens when I take the, because we saw that happen to the with the Milwaukee Bucks player, Skip. Remember, Dabo Swinney. Oh. We saw what happened to him. You're like, okay, yeah, we got that uniform on, it's one thing, but once we take it off, you black in America, they look at you as being black. You're just a tall black.
Incident in Manhattan.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then I forget, was it Sterling Brown? What was the guy's name? I forget. But you know what I'm talking about. It was a basketball player. They got the same thing happened to him in Milwaukee.
But Dabo found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time and nearly lost his life because of it.
Yeah.
Okay. This time you have lost me. I did not read this tweet anywhere near the way you did. I read it as not sarcastic. I thought he was just paying his respects, paying homage, saying, yeah, it's at King James. He is King James. You have told me from the start he is the most powerful man in the NBA.
Yep.
And he is. Mm-hmm. He is the most dedicated and effective activist in all of pro sports, and it's not even close.
Correct.
So I got it that Pat Bev, a rival of his.
Yeah, rival. All of a sudden, go pay homage.
No, but he's like, I'm giving it up because that's the voice I listen to when it comes to this. And he said, not personal. On a personal level, I don't think he much likes LeBron. On a basketball level, I don't think he has a whole lot of respect for LeBron as a basketball player.
Okay.
But as the leader of the league, as the strongest voice in the league, I think he has nothing but respect, and he's paying it by saying, if he says we're hooping, we are hooping. Mm-mm. Because Pat Bev does want to hoop. This wasn't Pat Bev saying, I don't want to, but he says so we have to. It was Pat Bev saying, I'm all in, but all that matters is he's all in, so we are all in.
Exactly. So that paints LeBron as the villain, because what about the guys that are not all in? What about society that says basketball
but Pat Bev's on LeBron's side.
No. Pat Bev is trying to paint. Hold on. I don't deal with you personally. I don't particularly think that highly of you. Now, all of a sudden, I'm going to pay homage? Nah, Skip.
Okay, but Pat Bev wants to play. Number one, he's made it clear it's about his money.
What's that Pat Bev want to pay?
He hasn't made much money in his career because, as you point out, he had to play in Russia and Greece and all over Europe just to get a shot in the NBA, and he made the most of it. I don't know if any man has ever come farther than Pat Bev has to making $12 million in this league, the way he had to do it, route.
Well, hey, you tweet, Pat Bev wants to play. The Clippers want to play. Don't bring King James into it.
Okay, but he's just saying because Kyrie has raised an issue, Pat Bev's saying it doesn't matter what Kyrie is saying or anybody else is saying. It just matters what 23 is saying.
Thank you, Skip.
Okay, but he's not trying to vilify him.
Skip, what you think it's going to be? If the players don't want to play, and society says basketball should be postponed, but King James wants to play, so we got to play, what is that doing?
Well, I don't know what percent of society is saying we don't want basketball to be played.
But I'm saying there are a segment.
I told you as we started the show, the tide might be turning back against LeBron in this, and he may have to reconsider his decision in the next, say, 12, 24, 48 hours.
So that's all I'm saying. Pat Bev, if you want to play, you could have tweeted, hey, I'm ready to hoop, but I'll do whatever the NBA or whatever the players think is in the best interest, that I'll do that also. Don't bring King James into it. Don't put King James, because nobody else cared what he said. It was that at King James. That's what I'm saying. Remember, Skip, he said, everybody, if you want attention, put my name in your dentures. And that's what Pat Bev got, because they probably would have tweeted that 5 times had he not had King James. But because he had King James' name up in it, now all of a sudden it becomes a story. You know that. He knew that.
Well, I know your premise. I get your premise, but did you read that as sarcastic?
Yes,
I did not.
Absolutely.
I read it as I give it up to King James.
So now all of a sudden he want to give it up. A man that he said, oh, how hard is it to guard the NBA? Not how hard is it to guard King James? Not that hard. How good is it? Not that hard.
Well,
not that hard.
Well, he proved that on Christmas Day.
Skip.
What happened at the end of the game on Christmas Day?
Skip.
He blocked his tying three-point shot. Remember that?
Okay, so LeBron.
That was like the play of the year for the Clippers. I think we're seeing it right now. Remember, LeBron started to go up, and he knocked the ball out of his hands, through his hands, OB off LeBron, game over.
So what happened when Bradford Smith dropped 36 on Jordan?
Okay.
So it happened, Skip.
Okay.
He knocked the ball out of his hands. You make it seem like he D'd the man up. What happened when they came back and played the next time? You remember Pat Bev came unplayable in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
Only played a handful of minutes.
He often has been because he's all of about 6'1".
That ain't got to do with it. You didn't say that when he knocked the ball out of his hand. He's all of 6'1".
I did. I said it. I said the littlest man on the court, 6'1", knocked the ball out of 6'9"'s hand.
He was trying to be funny. He thought it was funny. It's not.
I don't think he
was. I do. I knew, Skip. I know him.
And he said, not personal, only all caps.
Why you got to say not personal? Why you got to say not personal?
Because I don't think he likes him.
Okay.
Okay. So he's disqualifying that part of it. This is about business. He's saying, I want my 75% of my $12 million because I could use that money.
I'm just trying to figure out. I don't know how most people operate, but if it's somebody I don't like, I don't mention them in a tweet. I don't mention them in an IG post. If I don't like you, why is your name in my mouth? Why is your name on my thumbs? If I don't like you.
Because right now, King James is benefiting that man because he's making it possible for that man to earn whatever 75% or $12 million is.
Think about it. LeBron James makes $35 million a year. LeBron James does $90 million. So the other $55 million coming from endorsements. That's still coming in, whether he dribbles the basketball, dunk, or not.
Okay, that's true. No, that's exactly right. But Pat Bev has no endorsements that I'm aware of.
I'm sure he probably got a little sneaker deal, get a little paraphernalia.
Maybe a little bit.
But here's the thing, Skip. But my thing is, Pat, if that's the way you feel, just keep it tied to Pat. Why you got to bring that main name into it?
Because he's fearless. I mean, he's just laying it right on the table, and he did 4 praying hands like, thank you, LeBron, because it's about business right now. And it's also about he would love a shot at LeBron in potentially the conference finals because he thinks his team is better than LeBron. So he's saying, thank you, King. Let's make this possible. Let's hoop. Let's see how it plays out.
He's trying to paint LeBron as a villain, but it ain't going to work. Not going to work, Skip Bayless. Yeah. That's not going to work.
Well, I thought LeBron wanted to be seen as the powerful voice.
He is. He don't want to be. He is. They don't want. He is.
Okay, so if you are, you should own that and seize it. And I'm waiting. Like I told you all weekend, I'm looking for LeBron's tweet or his IG post. I'm waiting for the King to say play or not play.
We don't respond to pettiness.
You don't?
Nah.
Kyrie is petty?
Nah, I'm talking about him.
Oh.
Kyrie, look, we want to play. We made it abundantly clear even before they had the call. LeBron James has been on record saying, I think he did a story with the undefeated, said, I want to play. I want to resume the season. So LeBron has been he's been crystal clear on his stance on resuming the season. So he does not need Pat Bev to be talking about, hoopers. If King James say we hooping, we hooping. Nah, we'll need you.
Okay.
You do your thing.
Well, so he tried to pay his respects, and you rejected him. You should accept him.
Now all of a sudden, Pat Bev want to pay respects to Go James.
On a business level, yes, he does. Yes, because he realizes he runs the league. Pat Bev doesn't run the league.
Of course not.
Doc doesn't run the league. Kawhi runs L.A., but he doesn't run the league.
I know, so let me get this straight. So let me get it right.
Just going to get that in there really quickly.
Okay, let me get it right. So one guy runs L.A., but the other guy runs the league.
Yeah. It's Kawhi town now.
I like how you say things.
There we go.
Skip.
Now we got it.
Might not notice. Yeah. Threw that in really quickly before break.
No mercy.
This weekend, NASCAR returns to Talladega. First on Saturday, it's Xfinity Series racing at 5:30 Eastern on FS1. Then Sunday on Fox, catch the Geico 500 at 3 Eastern. Both races are also on the Fox Sports app. Okay, guys, Baker Mayfield and J.J. Watt both responded to fans over the weekend who assumed they would not be kneeling or would not be okay with other players kneeling during the anthem. Baker said he would absolutely be kneeling and wasn't concerned about losing fans over it. J.J. said that if people still think it's about disrespecting the flag or military, then they haven't been listening. Shannon, did you like the stances that they both took?
I loved them. And I'm glad to see, Skip, that maybe the movement, maybe what's transpired over the last 2 weeks, the guys got an opportunity to see what Colin Kaepernick was actually trying to bring attention to. It was never about the flag or the military. And so I'm glad these two guys. Now, Skip, J.J. Watt he's the All-American kid.
Yep.
Midwest, USA. He was a 2-star recruit at Central Michigan. He didn't like it there. He walks on to the University of Wisconsin, gets so good, he becomes a first-round draft pick. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Walter Payton Man of the Year, raised over $40 million for Hurricane Harvey. Now, the question is, J.J. Watt has really never been criticized because J.J. Watt, Skip, from the time he got into the league, he's been lights out. Mm-hmm. So this might be the first time he takes some criticism on his Twitter, on his IG. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles that because when you haven't faced backlash before, Skip, it's different. Because you believe everybody loves everything about you and everything that you do. J.J. Watt's about to find out that people just want you to stick to football and not have an opinion on anything other than football. So if he can handle that, I think he'll be just fine. But we need guys like J.J. Watt, influential white guys that can talk to their friends, and have this very uncomfortable conversation about race. Mm-hmm. Baker is a little different. Baker's been criticized. Baker don't care. Baker been dealing with this. Baker been saying, look, I'm Baker Mayfield, accept me as I am. If you don't like it, kiss my butt. So he's been dealing with that since college, Skip. He's coming to the NFL. He's built up he's built up a fan following, and then he's built up a fan disliking. So Baker Mayfield is like, he could care less. The question is, will J.J. Watt be able to withstand the criticism that's going to come along with him? Because I won't be surprised if President Trump doesn't tweet at him personally. Maybe. Like he did Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. He tweeted at Drew Brees personally because he wanted Drew. I ain't happy with you, Drew. I ain't happy that you're taking this stance. So I wouldn't be surprised if President Trump or maybe some other prominent person tweet JJ is like, I'm not pleased with this stand.
Okay. I'm going to go a little farther down the road you started on. These are two very different human beings in different situations.
Yes.
Baker's tweet did not surprise me at all. He's always had rebel in him, anti-establishment in him. Gets mad at the Kansas players while he was at Oklahoma. Remember, because they wouldn't shake during the coin toss?
Yep.
Looked across the field at him once they had a big lead, grabbed his crotch.
Yep.
You know, that's the signal he's going to give to them.
Hit the TCU player in the head
for running across his back line during warm-ups. Nailed him right in the helmet. And Hugh Jackson, who's since fallen apart with Baker, he said when he went to sort of hang around with him before they drafted him number 1 overall, he went to Oklahoma, and he said the first thing he saw was Baker was like Pied Piper, the Pied Piper to a lot of his teammates, most of them obviously black, who they just believe blindly in Baker because they love being around him.
Right.
Odell is one of Baker's closest friends. They hang out together. They socialize together. So obviously it would be in Baker's heart to me. It would be part of his makeup, part of his nature. Yeah, I'm going to kneel. I absolutely am. I'm not even thinking twice about it.
Right.
JJ, I'm not so sure about. I think he had to come around to this way of thinking.
Yes.
I think what happened to Drew Brees had huge impact on J.J. Watt. And he's a smart man, and he watched it unfold, and he's like, aha, tide has turned. I better take a very different stance here. No matter what I thought back in 2017, I better be on the right side of this now. And I think J.J. is PR shrewd. He's established a lot of disaster funds, some great, some, he was sort of piggybacking what was already established. But the point is, very shrewd operator. So I think he learned whatever lesson needed to be learned from Drew Brees, and he tweeted what he tweeted. They both were responding to fans on Twitter.
But I think the thing is, Skip, now we're ways away. I mean, everything sounds good in theory at this present moment. We're in June. We'll see if the season starts in September, how they still feel at that moment.
Good point.
Because it's going to be, look, J.J. Watt and Baker's the quarterback. J.J. is one of the preeminent defensive players in all of football, one of the best players in football. The camera's going to find those guys. And people are going to do going to draw their own conclusions accordingly. So I'm glad if this is in their heart, Skip, and this is something they want to do, they want to help, I commend them. But we'll see if they still feel this way come September, because the backlash, especially for JJ, is going to be immense.
It will be immense. I would agree. And I'm with you. I'm not sure he's experienced anything quite like this kind of backlash. Probably none.
No, never.
So far,
no,
right?
No.
Okay, so Baker, I trust, I do believe he will kneel come September. Right. Obviously, we need to hear more from bigger and better white quarterbacks, starting with Tom Brady, Drew Brees, down the line. We need them to put actions behind words.
Correct.
I would like to see everybody kneel. Again, whatever's in your heart is in your heart.
Right.
But again, I propose to you maybe there could be a minute of silence ahead of the anthem, if that would take some people off the hook and allow everybody to do what they do, and then all stand with hand over their heart during the anthem. But that might take a little bit away from the power of the protest.
Correct. And Skip, for me, I just don't want guys to be vilified. Because, Skip, at the start, everybody's going to show the anthem. If they they might keep the players in. I don't know. They might keep the players in the locker room because, Skip, remember, that's what they started doing. Yep. Because before, until you got this pay-for-play, the military stuff, Skip, you didn't have to come out for the national anthem. It was that the military started like, okay, we'll give you this to come out for the national anthem. They waved the big flag. They would try. It was a recruiting tool. Skip. That's basically what it was. Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. But Skip, the camera's going to pan. Oh, he's kneeling. Oh, he's standing. Why is he standing?
Oh, you're going to keep score.
And so now, Skip, they're going to ask you, okay, I saw all your teammates, but you didn't. Why didn't you kneel? And I don't want guys to get vilified.
How do you remedy that? How do you head that off at the pass? I don't know.
I don't know how either, Skip. I think there's going to have to be some smarter people that's above my pay grade. But look. Just because they're not kneeling doesn't mean that they don't support your cause. Maybe they're doing other things. That's a conversation maybe you have amongst teammates and says, okay, man, I'm not kneeling, but I support the cause. I've done this, I've done that, and you keep it moving. But I'm not vilifying anybody that does not stand.
The great Shannon Sharp taught me two things can be true.
Absolutely.
I can honor the United States flag, and I can support your Black Lives Matter cause.
Yes.
So it's possible to do both?
Absolutely. Whereas before, Skip, it was either, if you were disrespecting the flag in order to support your cause. And so now we've moved past that. We know that's not that was never his intention. That was never his purpose. And so now I want to know what the excuse is. I just want to hear some of these owners talk, Skip, that was so vocal in the beginning about, the country and, the military and, the flag. So it's going to be interesting to see what they have to say now when we know that was never the case. See how they try to spin that. But they're good at spin now,
Yep. Well, I do thank Baker, and I thank JJ so far. So good.
Going to be interesting to see. Like I said, September's a ways away. That's 2.5 months?
No mercy. Washington VP of Player Development Doug Williams said on the Dan Patrick Show that Washington had some interest in Colin Kaepernick a few years ago. Williams explained that with the team's location being in D.C., which is so military heavy, they feared that fans would turn against them. Shannon, are you buying this explanation?
It's a convenient excuse, Skip. And I'm sure that Washington was not the only team that convinced themselves of this. But it seems to me, Skip, when they say a segment of the fan base, they're only talking about one segment, the white segment. Like, blacks don't go to games, Skip. If I didn't know better, you'd swear blacks don't go to games. So what about bringing Cap in and energizing the black segment of your fan base? That never crossed anybody's mind. Well, the white fan base. And it's interesting to me that it's like, D.C. is such a military town, and the fans, you had a name for 70 years, and you don't seem to care about what the fans think. You keep that going. So you do what you want to do. If teams wanted to sign Cap, they do. Because it seems to me the crime, quote unquote, which wasn't a crime, that Cap committed was an unforgivable. as opposed to some of the guys getting signed that actually committed crimes. So a peaceful protest is more of a grave injustice than somebody actually doing something, Skip, that was wrong. I'm confused. You see the backwards way of thinking, Skip? Look, I get it. I know Doug, and he's speaking honestly, but the Washington was not the only team that convinced themselves it was about the flag, it was about the military, and it's going to turn a segment of our fans off. Let's just, if they didn't sign him, we can say, hey, we can make whatever excuse we want to use, Skip, doesn't fit our system. You'd have to develop another system for a backup quarterback, more trouble than he's worth. But, Skip, this is very, very convenient. Very, very convenient to say that, that it was about the fans, and there's no way to definitively know. Was that the only reason? But I think that did weigh into a lot of the teams that didn't sign him. They were looking for a reason not to sign Colin Kaepernick. The best reason, he had his silent, peaceful protest, and we made it about the flag, and they're going to play the national anthem at the start of every game, and it was going to be a distraction, and so we say no.
So I also know Doug Williams. I've known him since he was in college at Grambling, and I believe in him, and I appreciate all that he went through. Became the first black quarterback, obviously, to win a Super Bowl, trails that he blazed. But that decision in 2017 was above his pay grade. Right? Yeah. So that wasn't his call. Let's not get it confused.
Dude.
It went to the top. It went to the owner.
And the owner is very close to you know who.
You know who. So Doug said, you don't want to bring people into a situation where nobody is going to be happy. Well, I've been told that it's between the Redskins and the Saints for which franchise has the highest percentage of African-American season ticket holders. Season ticket holders.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's very close, neck and neck. I'm not sure exactly what the stats are, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Redskins have the highest percentage. So you could have made a case in 2017. Why don't you play to that part of your constituency, right?
Dude.
Maybe it would be time to enliven your black followers to where they'd say, wow, here we go, right?
Yes.
And obviously they didn't draft. It was RG3, right, that they had before.
Right. Because they drafted RG3 in 2012.
And they traded up to draft him, and now they have Dwayne Haskins. I've said it to you before within the last couple of weeks, Colin Kaepernick to me is better than Dwayne Haskins. That's just me. And Kyle Allen that they acquired from Carolina. I believe Colin Kaepernick is better than Kyle Allen, their backup.
Okay.
Alex Smith is still on the back burner.
Yeah, I don't see him.
Whatever. God bless him. He's just had his career wrecked.
I saw the piece they did on him.
Yeah, I know. Whew, it's tough.
Yeah.
But he's still there as a long shot possibility. I still say Colin Kaepernick would really work in Washington today. Now, certainly that the tide has turned. But in the end, I'm with you, and I appreciate that you brought up the bigger point, which is that franchise has had a racist nickname for what's it been, 70 years? Yeah, 70 years. Maybe I appreciate it slightly more because I grew up in what was called Indian Territory, Trail of Tears. They moved the 5 civilized tribes from southern states, lost a lot of them along the way, forced march all the way up to Indian Territory, which was Oklahoma, and put them on reservations, which began to shrink because they then had a land run and they gave white settlers big parts of their reservation. So, but we don't need to go into that. But I have a more of a sympathetic eye and ear for this.
Right.
And to me, Redskins was a racist or at least derogatory term that originated in TV and movie westerns early on, way back in the 40s and 50s. It's, it was just terrible. It was just, what?
It ain't no term of endearment.
No.
If they gave themselves that name, like we gave us, they gave us the NER, we put the GA on the end of it, and we called each other, that's different.
No.
Y'all gave them that name. And then that's a term of endearment, that's a badge of honor. No, it's not. Says who?
So Dan Snyder has paraded out some of the leaders of some of the tribes who say we're not offended by it. In fact, we're honored that you would use our... No, I don't believe that.
No, I don't either.
But whatever. There have been also a lot of other Native Americans who have spoken out. We are offended by it.
Correct.
And if even one spoke out, I would say then it's wrong.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
So in the end, I don't know how it continues to thrive. I don't know. It just seems to me like you could thrive economically if you changed it to, I don't know, Warriors or whatever, your Washington Warriors. That would be alliterative.
Right.
And you could sell a whole new set of jerseys and paraphernalia, right?
Right.
I don't know. So maybe that's a very important issue they haven't faced also.
But Skip, it's look, that was the instead of just saying that, but they tried to, well, it was about his talent. We knew it wasn't about his talent because the guy had been a starter for the better part of his career, and he didn't drop off a cliff. Now, I'm not saying that Cap was Russell Wilson or that he's Pat Mahomes. I'm not saying that. But I believe Colin Kaepernick could have been a starter, should have been given an opportunity. I'm not saying you give him a job, but I'm saying you give him an opportunity to show what he can do. And if he can't do the job, he can't do the job. But when you made it about this, and then you says, well, and you paint him as in such a light, yeah, the negativity is gonna be there. And we know that Mr. Snyder, we know his relationship with the president, the man that lives at 1600 Black Lives Matter Avenue. I love it.
I thought you were going to rename it 1619 Avenue.
No, Black Lives Matter Avenue. Okay. Skip, so we know the relationship. So that was, Skip, you and I both know. I don't care. That was never going to happen. He was not signing there. And be in shouting distance of that big White House with the way he feels about the anthem and the flag and the military.
I agree. It wasn't going to happen.
That wasn't happen.
No, you're right. Could it happen now? Probably not.
Skip, and that's the thing. And I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I don't want to be, cynical or skeptical. But Skip, nobody signed the man 3 months after. But 3 years later? Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, even though there's a groundswell of support, the owners still feel the same way, Skip. So we ain't got no team, Skip. The fans don't own a team. If we own the team, okay, baby, come on in, Cap. You've been punished enough. Come on. We're going to give you an opportunity to compete for a job. But we don't. Them owners still feel the same way.
So just to be fair about this, I'm going to say it one more time because it fits into this conversation. Back in 2017, my longtime friend John Wooten called me. He was then the head of the Fritz Pollard Alliance overseeing the Rooney Rule for the National Football League. He once blocked for Jim Brown up in Cleveland. Yep. And John said, hey, do you know how to get a hold of Colin Kaepernick? I said, well, I don't, but Shannon might be able to. And John said, I've got 5 teams right now. This was in 2017, maybe in October. They're interested in talking to Cap. Now, would they have signed him? I have no idea, but they were very interested in talking. And John couldn't get a hold of Colin because nobody could get a hold of Colin to get him to fly in, at least to sit down and say, yeah, I'm all in. I want to be a franchise quarterback. I want to be your starting quarterback. And I don't want to pursue a path of activism full time because they thought maybe that's what he wanted to be at that point, as a full-time crusader for social racial justice, right? And we still haven't heard from Colin, so I'm still not sure where his heart is on this right now.
I mean, you hear bits and pieces. He's in the best shape of his life. He still wants to play, but that's coming from other people. So at the end of the day, Skip, I believe still if Colin Kaepernick says, you know what, guys, I want to play. I believe I'm in good enough shape. My arm is lively enough that I can go and compete for a starting job or I can be a backup. I still believe the NFL is going to say, you know what, we've moved on.
Maybe.
That's what I believe.
No mercy.
Kyrie Irving is reportedly against the NBA season resuming in Orlando. In a conference call, Kyrie said that, quote, something smells a bit fishy and that he didn't think continuing the season in the current social climate was a good idea. Rockets guard Austin Rivers disagreed, posting on social media, I love Kyrie's passion towards helping this movement. I'm with it, but in the right way and not at the cost of the whole NBA and players' careers. We can do both. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard is joining us this morning. Chris, good to have you with us. So which side of the issue are you on? Should they play or not play?
Well, good morning, everybody. Great to be on. This is a very nuanced topic. I think there are pros and cons to both sides. Certainly, if you're looking at it just from what's best for the players, then they should play. Because if they don't play, they're going to cost the league and themselves, the league billions of dollars, themselves millions of dollars. I get that. But I like Kyrie's line of thinking because he's recognizing the power that black athletes have to change society. I actually believe that black athletes have more power to change society and systemic issues than any other group of African Americans, including politicians, because of their popularity, because of their wealth, and because of their skill set. No one else can do what they do. And so they're irreplaceable and they're necessary in that regard. So I actually like that line of thinking, but I haven't seen any plan behind it. So I actually think the answer is right in the middle. To me, what the players need to do is go to Adam Silver, who is player friendly, has great relationships with the superstar players in the league. Go to Adam Silver with a list of asks. These are what we want, to combat systemic racism. We've seen the NFL pledge $250 million over 10 years. That's not a huge amount of money, relatively speaking, but it is something. I haven't seen the NBA as a whole make any type of pledge. So the players should say, we have certain asks. I think an ask could be something like, we want it to be a requirement for NBA owners that whatever companies you own outside of the NBA, you start management trainee programs for black college graduates, with the goal being under a timetable that within a certain number of years, your management and executive class of your corporation is at least 10% African American, because 10% of the United States college graduates are African American. Things like that are how you combat systemic racism. You could have the NBA owners and the league itself make massive donations to HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, to build up their athletic programs to the point where, in terms of equipment, technology, state-of-the-art things, they can actually compete for the most part with the biggest white universities. Then you may be able to get better players to go to the HBCUs, which can build them up, get the universities more money. So I think those are the things the players should be asking for. And if the NBA rejects it, then you pull out the nuclear option as well, then we won't play. And it's a sacrifice, but we're trying to make systemic change. Everybody's going to have to make a sacrifice. We're actually asking whites who are in power to sacrifice some of that power and wealth and give it to us because we've earned it. So I think all of us can make a sacrifice. So that it's a deep topic, but I think the players should be thinking in those types of ways. Just to not play without a list of demands doesn't really make sense. I get what Kyrie's point, and I talked to somebody on the call. He was telling the players, look, because everybody's saying we can demonstrate, we can make, our presence felt while we're playing games, which is true. But Kyrie's like, we've done all that. We've worn the I Can't Breathe t-shirts. The NFL players have kneeled during the national anthem. We've locked arms, held up a fist, whatever it is. And this is still happening. So I think that's a good point. I think the players need to look deeper and make some demands and some asks as a condition of them playing.
Wait, no, you can go. So, Chris, you're telling me that you're hearing that there are far more players leaning to play, right? They'd already, obviously, the player reps had already voted unanimously to play. The owners were 29-1 to play. It only started with this call on Friday night that there was a little bit of subversion, a little bit of pushback, starting with Kyrie. But you think that as of right now, it's still pretty much full speed ahead to play?
Yeah, I think it is. Everyone I've talked to, from agents to certain players to people in the league, front office people, they are pushing to play because they know the type of money that's at stake. And I do think most players, Skip, feel like Austin Rivers. They understand where Kyrie's coming from, but they're like, look, we need this money. All of us don't have a signature shoe like you, Kyrie, or a max contract, which I understand. And they're saying we will make our presence felt in our statements while we're playing, which I get. I totally get. I actually think you might not have to not play. Like, look at the University of Missouri, Skip. Remember the football team?
Yeah.
They threatened not to play.
They did.
And within 3 days, the president was gone. They didn't miss a game. I think if the NFL players in mass, if just the black players or all the players said, look, we're kneeling or we're not playing until Colin Kaepernick's on the roster. He would have been on the roster. So I don't think you can threaten, but I don't think the owners would even let you miss a game. So I just think the players, if they really want to combat systemic racism, this is not just about, individual prejudices and being nice to black people. This is about systemic inequalities that date back hundreds of years. And the players need to look deeper if they want to address that. So, to answer your question, Skip, I still think they're full steam ahead playing.
Okay.
But to my point, what I tried to say earlier, Chris, is that if you look at it, so even if you donate money, I don't believe that resolved the problem immediately. So, Skip, Chris, when you said it's over hundreds of years, you're talking about something that's been in place for 401 years. You're not going to change this overnight. So what would be the game plan? As you mentioned, you said, okay, come up with a game plan, Kyrie. What would you like to see? Or other players that's in on this that's potentially not wanting to play because they don't want to miss out on this moment of this opportunity because they have such a groundswell of support. What is it that you would like to see enacted immediately that would convince you we're on the right path, we're heading in the right direction, and you go play? What is it that you want to see? Because as you mentioned, Chris, this is a long time coming. It's going to be a slow and arduous process. And I agree, we want to see some changes. But what are the changes that Kyrie would like to see immediately enacted that would convince him it's okay to play, if the players can play, still protest, still lead social change? What is it that he wants to see?
Well, that's a great point, because you're right, Shannon. Any list of demands is going to take time they can immediately say, okay, we'll agree to do this, a management training program, donations, HBCUs, but it still will take time for the fruit of that to be seen. Talking to the person I spoke to who was on the call, they did say this too. Kyrie was not the only one that felt the way he did. Dwight Howard, we've seen his name attached to this sentiment. Avery Bradley, ironically, 2 Lakers. And there were other players, I'm told, that felt that way. When I broached them, look, what are the demands? They said, we brought that up too. They didn't give any specific demands because honestly, I don't think they know. But they said, we need to come up with some type of list of demands. And I was told that there will be more calls, that they didn't leave this, okay, the call's over, this is it, that they want to continue to talk. This is where, Shannon, I would love to see African-American athletes be more linked up with Black economists, Black lawyers, Black educators, people Black politicians whose job it is to understand how you can make these types of changes. Because as much as I'd love to see the athletes do what they can, they don't have all the answers, nor should they. They're athletes, and this is what they focus their time on. But if they were linked up and connected with not just African Americans, but others who deal with these issues and who really want to address systemic change, then they might be able to work with them to get a list of demands that makes a lot of sense. So working on their own, it may be hard for them to come up with such a list.
So, as Shannon says, I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but I got to return to the real world problems that we saw rear their ugly heads again over the weekend, Chris Broussard, and maybe turn the tide back toward Kyrie and Dwight Howard and Avery Bradley. Not only did we see COVID outbreaks anew in 18 states, which is going to give all these players another cause to pause. They're going to rethink. They're going to second guess. Is it really time? Are we still too early to try to even go into a bubble in another month in Orlando? That's the least of the problems, because now the most of the problems. As we've all heard over the last, say, 48 hours, 2 black men were found hanging from trees in communities not far from Los Angeles, California. Palmdale is 60 miles north. Victorville is about 60 miles to the east of Palmdale. Hanging from trees? Local authorities initially ruled suicides on both. The families are not buying it. I don't blame them because it's hard for me not to be highly suspicious of what is going on here. I'm not going to leap to any conclusions, but we're heading backward. It feels like, as I told Shannon early, are we going back to 1950s Mississippi? Hanging from trees? And then, Chris, you know what happened? And we're the hometown of Shannon, or the place where you still own a home, Atlanta, Georgia, where protests is the birthplace of protests. It happened again on Friday night. Just when you thought we were starting to turn a corner, another white cop lost his head and shot in cold blood a black man who was not armed with anything more than a taser, which is not a lethal force weapon. Shot him down, shot him twice in the back, and killed him in a Wendy's parking lot. And I was horrified. I was dumbfounded that at this flashpoint moment we're in, that surely they have lectured all the policemen in Atlanta, no matter what color they are. We have to exercise the utmost caution. Do not use lethal force at all costs. Don't reach for your gun. And just because the man shot a taser at him and missed, he shot a taser at the man and missed, he pulls his gun and guns him down. We went right back to, the bottom. We're starting all over again, right? And the chief of police got fired. The Wendy's got burned down. Here we go again, Chris, and it feels like there's going to be new pressure exerted on the strongest voice in the NBA, LeBron James, who's been all in on playing, but he wasn't in on the Friday night call. But what is LeBron thinking about that man who died? Rayshad Brooks died in Atlanta. Yep. And Robert Fuller and Malcolm Harsh died hanging from trees in Palmdale and Victorville. What's LeBron think about those issues? What does he think about the new COVID outbreaks? I don't know. I kept waiting all weekend for LeBron to post something. All quiet so far, but I think the pressure will build on LeBron next 24 to 48 hours to make some kind of statement. Are you still all in or not? And Chris, to your point, Shannon and I, Chris, we don't want to see the NBA go away. Our livelihoods depend on it. But the most powerful message they could send is to not play basketball right now. Is that the moment we're in the evolution of this country, or the devolution of it? I don't know what we're doing right now, because I'm still horrified by the events of the weekend.
No, that was a great statement, Skip. And you're right. I don't know exactly where LeBron's at. Like you said, the last thing, talking to people, he's all in, wants to play. We all know that. And he feels like he can do, still make these statements while playing, which he's done. And he's obviously done great things, for the communities. But you made a point about COVID, because a lot of players are concerned about that. And this may not be the time to play anyway, just from a COVID standpoint. A lot of them are concerned about being sequestered into the bubble.
Yep.
So, and let's face it, even if NBA loses tons of money, the athletes, even the lower run guys who, are playing on veteran minimums or rookie deals, they're still going to make a ton of money, relatively speaking. So you can still argue that even though they'll lose millions, they still will make a great deal of money going forward once play does begin, whenever that is. Whereas, you're talking about a lot of change happening in this country. And, Dwight Howard is from Atlanta, Skip, to your point. And so this may only bolster his feelings of whether or not he should play. So Dabo Swinney had his incident with police brutality. He played for the Hawks. He didn't have it in Atlanta, but he plays for the Hawks. So I just want the players to get some type of outside counsel. And I think Michelle Roberts is very intelligent, and she has access to outside counsel. But get some people who deal with these issues to share with the players what type of changes they think they could make. There are people within the NBA offices who know this, because I really think the players need to call on the owners to make some systemic changes. The management throughout the United States is 6% African American. In executive positions is 3%. At Fortune 500 companies is less than 1% African American. The reason we've talked about they need to increase diversity. Companies have said we're trying to increase diversity, but it never happens. It hasn't happened even in the NFL and the NBA in the front offices or on the coaching staffs, right? Even though they're trying. The reason that sports is the only true meritocracy in America. Because when you put two guys on a football field or in a boxing ring or in a track or on a basketball court, it's obvious and undeniable who's the best. And you have to take them because you want to win. If you don't take them, you won't win. That's not true in corporate America. And it's also, more people are capable of doing the jobs in corporate America than they are in terms of professional athletics. So that's why we don't see the numbers, reflected the way they should be in corporate America. And I think you need to put demands on them, and our best situated black people to put the demands on them are our athletes. I'm with you, Skip. The best thing for the masses of black people is to make some sort of demand, and if you don't get it, you don't play. The best thing for the 450 basketball players is for them to play. Yeah. But how's that going to help the masses of African-American people?
You mentioned Dwight Howard. It's his uncle that's going to have to deal with this case. His uncle is Paul Howard, who's the district attorney of Fulton County. So this case is about to come before his desk, and he's going to have to review the facts of the case and see whether or not to press charges and what charges are going to be levied against him. And the thing for me, and you talk about the COVID, Chris, is that a lot of guys were pushing back because they didn't like the idea of isolation, where you go in and you can't go out. Chris, if you're growing up in the South, and my grandmama would say, boy, stay in or out. It wasn't no coming in and out, coming out the house. You went out and you stayed out until you came in for the rest of you came in to eat, but that was it. You weren't going to keep going in and out. But the players were saying, hold on, wait a minute. You mean to tell me we could be there up to 8-10 weeks and we can't leave? And then only after a period of time that family members can start filtering in and they can't leave? Nah. And then this happened, which was magnified times 10, and it shocked the very conscience because we watched the man die on live television, and it shocked the conscience of America, and it said enough is enough. But for me, and I believe two things can be true. I don't have a problem with Kyrie and his side. I don't have a problem with LeBron and his side. Guys want to play, guy doesn't want to play. I'm not vilifying anyone. But the question again, Skip, what is it that they want immediately that can give them the satisfaction that, okay, we're heading in the right direction while still playing the game of basketball? LeBron says, look, I spoke out against Donald Sterling. I said he got to go. We can't have that line of thinking of an owner in the NBA. The Trayvon Martin, they put the video together when he's in the Heat locker room. So LeBron has been very, very outspoken on this. Yes. And I think he's given a lot of other guys in the NBA and around in professional sport. You know what? When I see something that's wrong, it's just not good enough for me to be morally conscious. I've got to be socially conscious now. I've got to speak out because he is influential. That's why he has those endorsements. You don't get the endorsements that he got, Skip, without being influential because they know he can sell things. So he's like, well, if I can sell products, shouldn't I be able to sell people that this isn't right and to get people to move in a direction where everything is on a level playing field? And so for me, the question that I have for Kyrie, what is it going to take? What would make you feel comfortable? What would make the other players feel comfortable that the NBA and what we can do as a whole to get this thing rolling and still be able to go play basketball?
Guys, remember this. The NBA is playing right now is if players don't want to play, they don't have to play. So let's say 65 players decide, you know what, I don't want to play. The plan right now is just to move forward and replace them with G League players who are in the G League and the NBA, two-way players. There are other guys that would jump at the opportunity to play in the NBA.
But Chris, who are those 65 players? The NBA, more so than any other league, is a star-driven league. You can't have Giannis. You can't have Kawhi. You can't have James Harden. You can't have those big superstars. Now, football, it's the uniform. As long as you got that star on, as long as you got the Steelers logo on, that's all that matters. But it's not about the organization. It's about the guy in those sneakers. It's about the guy in that jersey. They need to see Giannis. They need to see Kawhi and James Harden. They need to see those guys and the Joel Embiid. Because I don't know if you have 7, 8 superstars says, nah, I'm good. I don't know if they can continue, Chris.
I agree with that. I mean, I think right now, most of the superstars, especially the ones that have a shot to win,
yes,
they're in. You know, we know LeBron, Kawhi, Paul George. I'm told the Rockets, you know, Harden and Westbrook, like Giannis, these guys are in. Now, maybe their minds will change. And then I think you're right. If too many superstars are out, you should not have the season. Because we've talked about an asterisk. I mean, my goodness, you know, what if Kawhi and Paul didn't play and the Lakers win it? It's not the same. And so I agree with that. But I think right now, many of the players aren't of those, you know, big names yet. But like I said, everything I'm hearing thus far is that they're still pointing towards playing. But there's a lot that could happen in the next couple of weeks to change that.
Remember, Kyrie and KD not going to play anyway, coming off surgery. But the silver lining here for me, for LeBron, Chris, and Shannon, is that I would love to see LeBron get his platform back on a nightly basis where he would be talking to the media constantly, because he's been a little bit out of circulation. I know he still posts on social, but it's not quite the same. It's not quite as powerful as if you were playing basketball and the playoffs started and you could make statements right and left night after day after night. So that would be one reason, a big reason for LeBron to say, I need my stage back.
See, I think that today with social media, I think that they can make just as big of statements without playing. Like if LeBron went on social media once every 3 days and made statements, that would be huge. We'd be talking about it on the show every day. I don't know, like if he plays, how much can he do? I'm not saying he shouldn't play, but I'm just saying if you wear a T-shirt every game, okay, I can't breathe. We see it. We would get used to that. After every time he's interviewed, I mean, after a while, what's he going to say? So I don't know that the platform will be any bigger. They can make statements and have images that we see, but I don't know if it's any bigger now because the players can speak out now. They don't need the go-between of the media. They can speak directly to these topics without having to play.
Black Lives Matter patch, Chris. That's what's going to be on all the jerseys. All the NFL jerseys, all the baseball jerseys, all the basketball jerseys. BLM.
No mercy.
Several Clemson players have defended Dabo Swinney and also said that Dabo is being educated during this time. During a speech at a social justice march and rally, Dabo said, quote, I'm embarrassed to say that there's things on this campus I didn't really understand. I knew the basics, but not the details. But I've learned and I've listened. So, Shannon, how much do you believe Dabo has actually learned about the racial issues facing our country?
Dabo hadn't learned anything. Dabo has learned how to maneuver his word skip to make it more tolerable for the masses. That's what Dabo has done. Dabo is from Alabama. Alabama. As I am from rural South Georgia. Dabo does not need an education in race relations in America. Dabo is fully aware of what's going on. He didn't understand. He's just a football coach. Come on, Dabo. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. And that's the problem that I have. Nobody from the South should have to be given an education. So let me get this straight, Dabo. You've never heard anybody use the N-word. You've never heard anybody say anything racially, anything insensitive about another group of people. Never in your life. Stop it, Dabo. That's what Dabo has done. Dabo has found a way. Okay, what is the least amount that I can do to get the most bang for my buck? I still keep my masses over here, my base, while pretending that, you know what, yeah, I get it. I needed to educate myself. Really? Dabo's never gone in the game without knowing whatever the team's going to do, what his team's going to do, what the other team's going to do, and what's going to be his counter. Now, all of a sudden, what's circulating around on his very campus, what he sees transpiring in the world today, he had no clue. No clue. But that's what Dabo Swinney wants you to believe. I don't believe that for 1 second. Not for 1 second. All Dabo has done is that it's okay now. It's somewhat, and what he's going to tell his base is like, tides are changing, but he still believes what he believes.
So I was fascinated to hear what you'd say in answer to Jenny's question, and I'm going to roll with you on this one because you know Dabo, I don't, and your radar is keen right now. It's very high, high alert, and you're not hearing change from Dabo. No. So I've told you from the start, what I heard was this classic arrogant, white, oblivious insensitivity where you see it, you know it, you don't care about it. It doesn't impact you. You're the king of your kingdom. And even though you don't really care about the real life plight of the black players who have made you the most successful college coach in America over the last 5 years, 69-5, 2 national championships out of 4 national championship game appearances, even though those young black men have made you the highest paid coach in America at about $10 million a year, you don't really care because it doesn't impact your ability to win football games.
Right.
You would have to hit this man where he lives before you would completely change and open his heart and his mind. Where does he live? What is the lifeblood of any college football program? Recruiting.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
So until you show Dabo that what he has said or not said or done or not done is affecting the mothers and fathers or the kids that you're trying to recruit, till you show him that and he starts to feel the impact of, they're turning against me. The doors aren't opening for me the way they used to. I don't think you're going to change Dabo.
No.
Right?
No. And Skip, this notion, and I don't want to hear about these coaches say, well, I go into their mom's and grandmom's house and I sit down on their couch and I eat food, I eat, rice and collard greens. They ain't got nothing to do with it because you're still trying to get her son. You're still trying to get her grandson to come to your college and help you get better than 69-5 over the next 5 years. So don't pretend like you're doing this. How many people hey, let me go to your, stop it. And that's my only point. You're from the South. You're Dabo Swinney's age. Nah, you don't need no education. You know full well what the race relationship is like in Alabama, in Mississippi, in Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, all the way on up, Skip.
Where Dabo, he had me for a moment, and then he lost me in the speech that he gave at the protest the other night when he doubled down on Black Lives Matter equally, which means all lives matter, which is a flashpoint phrase that has gotten white people fired in the last month.
Skip, he's been doubling down up until Saturday.
He has.
He doubled down in 2017, 18, 19. He doubled down up until Saturday. Now, all of a sudden, he had a John Q moment. He had a change of heart.
No mercy. Over the weekend, guys, Tom Brady worked out with Deion Sanders' son, who is going to be a senior high school QB. Afterwards, Brady told him on social media, "You will determine what your future holds. I'm always here for you." Shannon, do you like seeing this?
I love it. He's passing on knowledge, Skip. I mean, there are not very many kids, Skip, that's going to college. Imagine if you're a wide receiver, you got an opportunity to pick Jerry Rice's brain. If you're a running back, you got to pick an all-time great running back again. And that's what the luxury that he has. That's Tom Brady. And Tom Brady is talking mechanics and throwing the football and footwork and all those things. And so I love seeing that. Tom, say what you want to say about him, but he will not hoard information.
No.
He passes it on,
and
that's a great thing because Tom would do the same for him. And his son ever wanted to play defensive back, but Tom's son probably going to be a quarterback like his dad. I'm sure he called up Deion time and he go there, hey, this is what you need to do. So I love seeing this.
I got a warm moment from this after a rough weekend. And I loved what Deion posted because he made the case that there are things in life that a father can't teach a son, but if God is good and you have the will to find it, you can find it. He found it in the GOAT of quarterback. The GOAT cornerback found it from the GOAT cornerback, quarterback, I should say. And remember, Deion's kid is already being recruited by Alabama and LSU and all the top schools. He is legit. And as Deion posted, this was next level type of stuff. Well, it was, because I'm sure he showed him nuances that you just can't, that Deion didn't play quarterback. Right? He intercepted a lot of quarterbacks. He made their lives miserable, and he gets how to anticipate them, but he doesn't know exactly the requirements.
The subtle nuances of playing the position. Absolutely right.
So it was very cool to see, and I hope this kid has a great year at Trinity Christian in Cedar Hill, Texas, outside of Dallas. And sounds like Deion's got him a son who's going to go places.
Yeah, if y'all need an old tight end, you know, O'Shea Sharp really worried with no tight end. You know what I'm saying? For a nominal fee, for a nominal fee.
Oh, okay. That is it
now.
for Undisputed today. Good stuff, guys. Have a good day, guys.